The Thrones Awaken. The council chamber beneath Vespera Citadel had not been opened in almost a century. Even the stone seemed reluctant to remember it. Massive iron doors groaned as ancient mechanisms turned deep inside the mountain. Dust drifted through the cold air as the seals broke, and the long corridor leading into the council hall slowly filled with the quiet echo of footsteps. Seraphine walked first. Her cloak trailed behind her like a shadow across the polished black floor. Alaric followed one pace behind, not as a servant, not as a guard, but as something new. The warriors lining the corridor did not quite know what to call him anymore. Echo-bearer. Daybreaker. The man who had carried Lucien Varel's memory. Now simply Alaric. Even so, they stepped aside when he passed. The council hall opened before them like the interior of an ancient cathedral carved from midnight. 7 massive thrones formed a circle around a central platform of black marble. Each throne was carved from stone brought from a different continent centuries ago, each representing one of the original vampire territories that formed the Veil: Europe, Asia, Africa, North America, South America, Australia, Antarctica. Only one throne was already occupied. A massive figure sat on the African seat, his dark skin etched with ancient ritual scars that glowed faintly beneath the dim light. Lord Nkomo, War King of the Sahara Dominion, he watched Seraphine approach with the patience of a predator that had already waited several lifetimes. "You called the council," he rumbled. Seraphine stopped at the center platform. "I did." His eyes shifted to Alaric. "And you brought the anomaly." Alaric didn't react. Seraphine answered calmly. "He has a name." Nkomo leaned forward slightly. "Yes." His voice deepened. "That is the problem." More doors opened. Footsteps echoed through the chamber. The other territories had arrived. The Asian throne was claimed by Lady Mei Lin, whose calm expression concealed the mind of the most feared strategist east of the Himalayas. The North American seat was taken by Victor Kane, former human general turned vampire commander during the Chicago Blood War. South America's throne welcomed Isabella Cortez, whose jungles had hidden vampire civilization for centuries. Australia's representative, the pale and sharp-eyed warlord Jarek, leaned casually across his seat as if council meetings bored him. Last to arrive, the Antarctic seat, the seat that had once belonged to Lucien Varel. For a long moment no one spoke. The empty throne carried too much history, too much absence. Finally, Seraphine stepped forward. "The Daywalkers have arrived." The chamber grew colder. Victor Kane's voice cut across the room. "We heard," his eyes flicked toward Alaric, "and we heard you let them leave." Seraphine met his gaze without flinching. "They were testing us." Jarek laughed quietly. "Then they got what they wanted," and Nkomo's voice rolled across the chamber like thunder. They walked in sunlight. No one argued, because that single truth had already shattered centuries of vampire certainty. Lady Mei Lin folded her hands calmly. "How many?" 20, Seraphine answered. The council exchanged glances. Too few for an invasion, too many for an accident. Victor Kane leaned forward. "You should have killed them." Seraphine's voice sharpened. "And learn nothing?" Kane's fangs flashed slightly. "They are an abomination." Alaric finally spoke. "Their evolution." The chamber went silent. Every council member turned toward him. Victor Kane stood slowly. "You speak boldly for a man who isn't even part of this council." Alaric met his stare. "I speak as someone who fought them." Nkomo's eyes narrowed and survived. Alaric nodded. "Yes." Lady Mei Lin spoke quietly. "What did you learn?" Alaric stepped forward into the center of the chamber. "They're not stronger than us." Several council members relaxed slightly. "But they are better." The room stiffened again. Victor Kane crossed his arms. "Explain." Alaric's voice remained calm. "They learn in real time." He gestured toward the empty throne of Antarctica. "Aurelian is studying every battle." Mylin's voice dropped. "The network intelligence," Alaric nodded. "Every fight makes them smarter." Nkomo's deep voice returned. "Then the solution is obvious." He rose from his throne. "Destroy them before they multiply." Several council members nodded immediately. Isabella Cortez spoke next. "My scouts report Daywalker sightings in Brazil," Jarek added casually. "2 in Sydney." Victor Kane's voice darkened. "Chicago lost a district last night." The chamber erupted into overlapping voices. War. Extermination. Purging the bloodline before it spread, Seraphine raised one hand. The room fell silent. "You're all thinking like predators," she said. Victor Kane sneered. "We are predators." "Yes." Her eyes hardened. "But they are something else." She turned slowly. "Something we might become." The chamber exploded with outrage. Victor Kane slammed his fist into the arm of his throne. "Absolutely not." Nkomo's voice shook the stone walls. "You suggest we become them?" Seraphine's answer was quiet. "No." She looked toward Alaric. "I suggest we learn." The room fell silent again, because that idea was far more dangerous than war. Lady Maylin spoke first. "You want to study the Daywalkers?" Seraphine nodded. "Yes." Victor Kane laughed harshly. "So they can kill us better?" Alaric shook his head. "So we can adapt." Jarek leaned forward. "Or become obsolete." Seraphine's gaze moved across every throne. "The Daywalkers are not replacing us." Her voice dropped. "They're the next stage." Silence fell across the chamber. Finally, Nkomo spoke again. "If that is true," his eyes burned, "then we must decide something far more terrifying than war." Seraphine met his gaze. "What?" The ancient war king answered slowly. "Whether the vampire race evolves," his voice echoed through the chamber, "or goes extinct." The council chamber fell completely silent, because for the first time in centuries, the Veil was not debating territory, not debating war. They were debating survival, and no one in that chamber yet understood how quickly the future was coming for them. The first champion. Before the sun could burn them, before the Veil divided the continents, before ancient blood carved empires beneath the earth, there were only predators. Creatures of night, kings of shadow. For centuries the vampires of the Veil ruled the darkness. 7 continents, 7 thrones, 7 bloodlines that believed eternity belonged to them alone. But evolution never stops, and now something new walks the earth. Vampires who do not fear the sun. Soldiers born from engineered blood and guided by a mind that never sleeps, a mind called Aurelian. They are faster, smarter, relentless, and they have come to prove that the old world is already dead. Tonight, the Veil sends its strongest warrior to meet them. Not in war, not yet, but in something older, a challenge, a duel. One fighter for the past, one fighter for the future. And when the blood touches the stone, only one will leave the arena alive. The arena beneath Vespera Citadel had not seen combat since Lucien Varel's final duel. The stone floor still carried faint cracks from that night. Seraphine stood in the high observation balcony, her cloak drifting slightly in the underground wind. Below her, the arena torches burned in a circle around the ancient combat pit. Alaric stood alone in the center, unarmed, waiting. The entire citadel had gathered in the surrounding tiers. Thousands of vampires watched in silence. Warriors, scholars, assassins. Elders older than some human civilizations. Every one of them had come to witness something none of them believed possible. A Daywalker had accepted the challenge. The iron gates at the far end of the arena groaned open. Sunlight poured in through the massive tunnel entrance. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Because the figure walking through that light did not burn, he stepped calmly into the arena, tall, broad-shouldered. His pale armor reflected the flames of the torches. Silver eyes scanned the crowd. This was no scout, no experiment. This was something else entirely. Seraphine whispered the word before anyone else could. "Champion." The Daywalker stopped 10 paces from Alaric. For several seconds neither man moved. Then the Daywalker spoke. His voice carried easily through the massive chamber. "I am Kale." Alaric nodded once. Alaric. Kale studied him carefully. "The Echo-Bearer." "Formerly." Kale tilted his head slightly. "Aurelian predicted you would say that." Alaric smirked faintly. "Then it's not learning fast enough." A faint ripple of laughter moved through the vampire crowd. Kale did not react. Instead, he removed the cloak from his shoulders and let it fall to the ground. The crowd fell silent again. His skin shimmered faintly beneath the torchlight. Not ordinary flesh, something altered, something designed. Seraphine leaned forward, her eyes narrowed. "They reinforced the muscle fibers," she whispered to Maylin beside her. Maylin nodded. "And the bones." Kale spread his arms slightly. "You called for a duel." Alaric nodded. "Yes." Kale's expression remained calm, primitive. Alaric shrugged. "Simple." The Daywalker smiled faintly. Aurelian prefers simulations. Of course it does. Alaric stepped forward, but this isn't a simulation. The two men stood now only a few feet apart. The tension between them felt like a storm waiting to break. Kale's voice dropped slightly. You understand something important, don't you? What's that? Kale's silver eyes gleamed. You're fighting the future. Alaric smiled. No, he raised his fist slowly. I'm testing it. The first strike, Kale moved first. The speed shocked the entire arena. Even the ancient warriors barely saw the motion. But Alaric did. He twisted sideways. Kale's strike cracked the stone wall behind him instead of his skull. The crowd gasped. Kale paused briefly. Impressive. Alaric shrugged. Human reflexes. Kale attacked again, this time faster. A barrage of strikes. Each blow precise, mathematically perfect. But Alaric fought differently. Unpredictable, chaotic, human. He ducked, rolled. Countered with strikes that made no tactical sense, except they worked. The Daywalker staggered slightly. Kale stepped back, curious. You fight without pattern. Alaric nodded. Yes. Kale's eyes narrowed. Aurelian warned us about that. Alaric smirked. You should have listened. The crowd roared as the two fighters collided again. Stone shattered. The arena floor cracked. Kale's strength was monstrous. Each strike carried enough force to break bone. But Alaric refused to fight by vampire rules. He fought like a human soldier. Dirty, improvised, creative. The Daywalker stumbled again. Kale's expression changed. Not anger. Respect. Interesting. Alaric wiped blood from his lip. Getting tired? Kale shook his head slowly. No. His voice became colder. Finished studying. Then the Daywalker moved again. But this time, something changed. His speed doubled. The next strike caught Alaric square in the chest. The impact launched him across the arena floor. The crowd erupted in shocked murmurs. Seraphine gripped the railing. Alaric. Dust settled slowly around him. Kale walked toward the fallen warrior calmly. Aurelian predicted this moment. Alaric groaned and pushed himself up. Good. Kale tilted his head. Why? Alaric smiled through the blood on his teeth. Because it predicted the wrong ending. Part 2. The breaking point. Dust drifted slowly through the torchlight. Alaric knelt where Kale's last strike had thrown him, one hand pressed against the fractured arena floor. The impact had split the marble in a jagged spiderweb pattern beneath him. The crowd above had gone silent. Thousands of vampires watched, barely breathing, because everyone in that arena understood something now. Kale had not been fighting seriously. Until that moment. The Daywalker champion stood several paces away, perfectly composed. His pale armor glowed faintly in the torchlight as he studied Alaric with a calm that felt almost surgical. You feel it now, Kale said. Alaric slowly rose to his feet. What? Kale's silver eyes sharpened. The difference between us. Alaric wiped blood from his mouth with the back of his hand. You hit harder. Kale shook his head. No. His voice dropped. I am evolving. The statement echoed through the chamber. Alaric tilted his head slightly. That sounds like something your machine god would say. Kale ignored the jab. Our blood is not static like yours. He flexed his hands slowly. The muscles beneath his skin shifted in an unsettling way, almost as if they were reorganizing themselves. The nearest warriors in the crowd leaned forward in disbelief. Seraphine's eyes narrowed. That's impossible, Mei Lin whispered beside her. Seraphine didn't answer. Because she could see it too. Kale's body was adapting, in real time. The Daywalker looked back at Alaric. Aurelian records every movement. He took one step forward, every strike, another step, every weakness. The ground trembled faintly beneath his feet. And it improves us instantly. The next strike came faster than before. Alaric barely saw the motion. Kale's fist slammed into the arena floor where Alaric had been standing a fraction of a second earlier. The marble exploded. Stone fragments blasted outward like shrapnel. The crowd gasped. Alaric rolled across the broken floor and sprang back to his feet. Well, he muttered. That's new. Kale turned toward him slowly. Yes. Then he attacked again. The duel evolves. Kale's movements had changed. He was no longer fighting like a warrior. He fought like an algorithm. Every motion perfect, every strike calculated, every defense optimized. Alaric blocked 2 strikes and countered with a spinning kick aimed at Kale's ribs. The blow landed, hard, but Kale barely moved. Instead, he studied the angle of the strike. Interesting, he murmured. Then he copied it. His counterattack mirrored Alaric's movement exactly. The kick struck with brutal precision. Alaric barely managed to deflect it. The impact still sent him skidding backward across the stone. Cale's voice remained calm. Aurelian has learned your pattern. Alaric chuckled breathlessly. That's unfortunate. Cale tilted his head. Why? Alaric's grin widened. Because I don't have one. The next exchange came so fast, the audience could barely follow it. Cale attacked with terrifying precision. Alaric responded with chaotic improvisation. He ducked strikes that should have connected. Countered attacks with techniques no vampire school would ever teach. Used the broken stone beneath their feet as weapons. At one point, he grabbed a shattered marble slab and hurled it directly at Cale's face. The Daywalkers shattered it with a single strike. But the distraction gave Alaric enough time to close the distance. His fist slammed into Cale's jaw. The entire arena floor trembled from the impact. Cale staggered one step. The crowd erupted. Seraphine leaned forward sharply. He hit him. Malin nodded slowly. Yes. But her voice held concern. Cale touched his jaw thoughtfully. Aurelian did not predict that tactic. Alaric shrugged. Humans specialize in surprises. Cale's eyes brightened faintly. Then let us test another adaptation. The true power of Daywalker blood. Cale's body shifted again. Not visually, but something in the air changed. The torches flickered. The temperature dropped. Seraphine felt the disturbance instantly. Her eyes widened. Oh no. Malin looked at her. What? Seraphine whispered one word. Solar absorption. The realization hit the entire council balcony at once. Cale wasn't just immune to sunlight, he was using it. The faint glow beneath his skin intensified. Energy. Stored. Weaponized. Cale stepped forward. You fight with creativity, he said calmly. I fight with evolution. The next strike came like lightning. Alaric blocked, but the force of the blow shattered the stone beneath his feet. Cracks raced across the arena floor. The entire chamber trembled. Cale followed with a second strike, then a third. Each blow stronger than the last. Alaric barely held the defense together. The crowd watched in stunned silence. Victor Kane whispered under his breath, "That's impossible." Nkomo's deep voice rumbled, "No." His eyes remained fixed on the battle, its progress. Cale's next strike sent Alaric crashing through a column of ancient stone. The pillar collapsed in a cloud of dust. Cale walked slowly toward the rubble. You cannot defeat the future, he said. The dust shifted. Then Alaric's voice answered from inside the debris. You're making a big assumption. Cale stopped. What assumption? The rubble exploded outward. Alaric launched from the wreckage like a missile. His fist slammed into Cale's chest. The Daywalker staggered backward 3 steps. The crowd roared again. Cale looked down at the dent in his armor. Aurelian predicted your resilience. Alaric wiped blood from his knuckles. But Cale's silver eyes flickered. It did not predict, he paused, your improvement. Something new Seraphine's breath caught, because she saw it. Something subtle, something terrifying. Alaric moved differently now. His reflexes had sharpened, his timing had improved, his strikes were stronger. Not by much, but enough. Malin whispered slowly, that shouldn't be possible. Seraphine nodded, her voice barely audible. The echo may be gone. Her eyes locked onto Alaric, but something else remained. In the arena, Cale tilted his head again. You are changing, Alaric shrugged. I'm learning. Cale smiled faintly. Then this duel has become something more interesting. He raised his fists again. Evolution versus adaptation. Alaric cracked his neck. Let's see which one wins. The 2 warriors charged. Their collision shattered the center of the arena. Stone erupted. Columns cracked. The ancient combat pit that had stood for centuries began collapsing beneath the sheer force of their battle. Above them, Seraphine watched with growing dread. Because for the first time, she realized the truth. This duel was not just a test of strength. It was the first step toward something neither side fully understood. And if Alaric continued evolving like this, the Daywalkers might not be the only new species rising from the ashes of the old world.